now that I think back at it and the timeline of it all and the way the writer's block fit in, it was more to the point a last desperate effort to be heard and understood.
Hello, aligned authors. I'm Valerie Isan, and this is episode 216 of the podcast, and it's June 30th, 2026, as I record this. Today, we are talking with Deane Haskell about so many things. We ran the gamut between inner child work and writing while traveling and drumming and how music informs writing. It was such a fabulous conversation. I will read his bio in just a minute, but first I want to thank my existing patrons for believing in me and my work here offline and here in the podcast. If you are a patron in either tier, you get all my content always. You can support me and my dreams and my writing and my aligned author life for $11.11. And I will be so, so grateful. Truly, heart to heart gratitude for my gifts. If you want coaching too, with 2 live calls each month, you can back me for $55.55. You will never find coaching sessions for less money than this. And if you've ever wanted continued support for your writing and accountability for your projects, this is the way to do it. Become a patron of the arts and of me, patreon.com/Valerie Isan. You can also support my friend and colleague, Eric Mertz. His Patreon page is patreon.com/strange air stories. And you can read his short stories in the paranormal mystery genre at that link. Announcements. I'm getting really happy with my retreat planning. I just finished working on the list of benefits that the writer receives by going to the retreat, and they're so good, you guys. So if you're interested in updates on the retreat, you can subscribe to the waitlist at valerieisan.com/retreat. There is an update for you on that mini writing retreat via Zoom. The date for that free mini writing retreat, this is for patron members, paid and unpaid. So just sign up on my Patreon page. And it's going to be Thursday, August 27th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. It's going to be 2 hours long. We're going to get all cozy. I'm going to light a candle, draw an oracle card to set the intention for the evening. We'll do a check-in. Everyone can talk about one struggle they're having with their writing and one win and what they're working on that night. And we'll do a guided meditation. And then we'll write words together in silence. And at the end, we can share a word count if that's important to you. That's totally optional. But that is the date now. So save the date, Thursday, August 27th, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Speaking of Patreon, there is a new essay up there now. So you can go check that out if you're a member. I just finished reading Mosswood Apothecary by J.P. Rindfleisch IX. And now I'm reading The Reliable Narrator by Grace Salmon, Do Less by Kate Northrup, and The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And The Creative Act, dude, I say we, I don't know, that was the royal we. I don't know what that came from. I have been finding all these really cool gems in The Creative Act. I've been putting them up on my Instagram stories. So occasionally you'll see a little quote from the Creative Act up there. All right. Let's get into the main interview with Deane Haskell. Deane Haskell is a speculative fiction writer and author of Wounded Angels, a memoir. His work explores that reckoning through failure, obsession, and the slow reconstruction of the fractured self. Across speculative fiction, memoir-driven essays, and recovery-centered writing, he returns to outsiders, seekers, and wounded people trying to become whole without abandoning the parts of themselves that helped them survive. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Thanks, Valerie. I'm so happy to be here. It's awesome.
Yay! So you reached out to me after the publication of the Solarian Deep.
Mm-hmm.
a
Yep.
speculative science fiction novel built around the alien ocean, which sounded cool. You're
Mm-hmm.
mostly a sci-fi writer, but you've also written memoir. I write both too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought that fiction and truth are often, if not always, like side by side. Um, in
Yeah.
both novels and memoir. Can
Mm-hmm.
you speak to how a story, whether it's fiction or not, carries that emotional truth without turning it into info dumping, explaining, telling, that sort of thing that we run into in our manuscripts?
Right. Yeah, excellent question. I see the way I think of my writing, and I struggled with, advice about like you should get a pen name, you should separate everything, get two different websites, blah blah blah. And in the end, I'm just like, I just don't have the energy to do that or the emotional bandwidth. It's like these are my books, and the famous ones can do it because you got Stephen King has like On Writing, and that's right next to his horror stuff, right?
Hmm.
But I am who I am. And the thing about my writing is what I realized was the inner child writing, which is not self help necessarily, but it's sort of a chronicle of how I got well, like healing from trauma, addiction, and whatnot.
Hmm.
That's writing about the past. I also write on Substack a lot of like, what's going on these days, basically present day whatever,
Like
slice
current
of life with,
events or whatever.
traveling.
Hmm.
Only in my life, not current
Okay.
events on the political side. I don't even take sides on that stuff. It's too dangerous. But yeah, no, my own journeys, and I've been traveling a lot the last 2 years, and so that is present day. And then I've always written near future techno thriller or sci-fi, something futury. I never really write in. It might be present day or into the future. I don't write any historical stuff. I don't really write any like in the 1980s. So far, I'm
Hmm.
not drawing any lines. It's just what came out. So
Right.
what I realized was, okay. It's a continuum. It makes sense. I'm writing about my experience, past, present, and future. And the future stuff, it's
Mm.
speculative in a sense, but I could also speculate on where I'd like to be next year. And that doesn't necessarily make it fiction. It's a hope or a dream or whatever, and that's kind
Hmm.
of how I feel about society. And my science fiction is usually not too far into the future, which is
Hmm.
pretty dangerous because like the future always catches up with us.
Yeah.
I wrote a book, Too Much Information was my first book, and it was published in 2013 about airport security overreach and like, the watchful government, right?
Uh-huh.
Turns out I was too
Oops.
easy on them. Things are much worse than I thought. Here it is. I could write a sequel now and just like, oh my God, no, 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 it's much worse than yeah. It's they. I've gone through that in the airport. I've gone through what I wrote as fiction in the airports recently.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. I mean, I think it's all how it's all for a writer. I think for me, it's just trying to figure out what's going on inside me and outside, as you said, and like what's going on in the world, whether we set it you know, on a different planet or way in the future or different kind of alien
Mm.
races. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday about Star Trek and how like I might be wrong about this, but I thought the original series, the Klingons were like the Red Menace, the Soviet Union in the Cold War, and that the Romulans were like the Chinese, and
Mm.
their brothers, the Japanese or the Vulcans, and then of course the Federation is America. And
Hmm.
maybe I'm wrong about that. Somebody could correct me. But anyway, it's like basically what's going on in the world in space, right? That's how
You're
they
right.
set it.
Uh-huh.
And Solarian Deep is like that too, because I put it in the ocean. Originally, I was just, so it was a serialized novel, right? At
Okay.
first, it was,
Did you
and
do that on Vela before that went away, or where did you serialize it?
I did
Substack?
it Royal Road at first,
Okay.
and I didn't get much traction there. It wasn't my type of crowd, I don't think it was.
Oh.
And they I was trying to like read some of the stuff on there, and it was definitely outside my experience. So I moved it to my Substack and then finished it on the Substack, and then I decided to publish it. And meanwhile, it started out as kind of like a lighthearted, like okay, whatever, kind of mermaids or like future fantasy stuff, but it started to deepen as I wrote it chapter by chapter,
Mm.
and it got more into events of the day, more into like, transition and like maybe LGBTQ kind of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
societal pressures, And then there's a first contact situation. So it's like the other, the dangerous ones, like, and then they go to war. So, I mean, it's under the sea, yes, and it's future. I just said it there, so it gave it a reason for all these things to be happening. Why does somebody need to transition into an ocean swimmer? Why does somebody need to transition in real life into something different? So
Cool. So the emotional truth part of it is
yeah,
the reality of our lives and how we interpret the world and what's happening in it, and just putting that in fiction. That's where the
I think
emotional
so.
truth arc comes from. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
And then doing that by not explaining or telling is just, I mean, that's just good writing, I guess. Not
Yeah, I mean
info
that.
dumping and
I
writing
mean,
that
well,
emotional truth without.
yeah, it's the thing. Okay, so I struggle with the rules, as it
Mm-hmm.
were. And I know I hate info dumping when I read it, and I hate it when I write it. But when it's well done, I like it. So, as you say, good writing
Uh-huh.
um, is a thing. But the thing for me is I'm trying to do this in my own writing too. There are no rules, right? And it's like you can write anything you want, and if nobody likes it, nobody likes it. But if somebody likes it, somebody likes it. And I've read some books where there's just like this total info dump, and it doesn't bother anyone. And maybe it bothers me because I'm a writer, so oh wait,
Right.
that's kind of an info dump. But other people, and some of the movies you see these days in Hollywood, it's absolutely totally like that. And these are like big budget $6 billion movies where they're
Yeah.
just like, I mean, come on, info dump, and not to bag on Star Wars too much, but the opening of the movie, somehow the bad guy has returned, right? It's like, okay, well, that's not good writing, but hey, they made a lot of money, and some people defended it too. So
So, you wrote sci-fi for several years before you wrote your memoir.
yes.
And I felt like I did mine in reverse order. I had to write the memoir first because that was the story in me that had to get out. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started playing with being a writer in other ways and in fiction. So,
Mm-hmm.
what was it that turned your attention inward after it had been, in space or in other realms,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
for so
yep,
long?
yep. Yeah, it's one, two, at least two of my books are in space for sure. Yeah, so my story is a bit complicated. The writing came relatively late. I used to think writing meant rules, and the teacher, would hit me if I didn't do it right. I took a
Ooh.
creative writing course in college, which I had a lot of fun with because the professor was this kind of like kind of a hippie grad student guy. He's like, write whatever you want, man. And like, I just wrote stuff to shock the class and this kind of stuff. And wow, that got a reaction. Like, you can write whatever you want. And if you write something that, gets attention, then, it started me on the sort of the road to thinking about writing stories. But I was too daunted I'm 55 now. So like that was back in the day when you had to get a publisher and a publicist and all this. And so it wasn't until the Kindle revolution there in the early teens, 2011, 2012, 2013. I published my first book in 2013 because I could do it by myself. I published from my desk, and that was amazing. And I paid way too much money for the cover, and I wasn't that satisfied with the cover. But other than that, I didn't have to put out any money. So I just kind of went for it. And at the time, I just thought, oh, this is something I'll try. But then, put it out, thought I would do great, didn't do that great. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to write another one now. So my next book was a little more, in depth, and I was getting better. And I published 4 books that way. The last one, which I'm quite proud of, is Emergence. That's an AI kind of robotics coming of age story in 2019. So that's my first 4 books, fiction.
Okay.
Then I hit a 5-year writer's block.
Ooh.
And yeah, and meanwhile, I quit alcohol and drugs and codependency and all that stuff. I dealt with addiction. I started dealing with my trauma. I started doing inner child work, and I was trying to write. I was really like, oh my God, should I quit? Like, I'm sitting there like reflecting and like, is the universe telling me, go back to, I'm a drummer too, go back to drumming or go find something else you're not supposed to write? Because I couldn't for 5 years. And I was like, this is just ridiculous, but I guess I just had to do that spiritual and emotional healing. And then just like for no reason around New Year's 2024, the floodgates opened up again and I was writing more than ever. The
Hmm.
Solarian Deep started there. And then that same summer, I started writing the inner child work that I had already been doing for years. So I was literally just chronicling the healing work,
So wait, wait,
and
wait.
that's
I
what.
want to do the timeline. So the floodgates
Yeah,
opened when? 20 what?
New Year's 2024, a couple years ago,
Okay. And
and
then you wrote the memoir.
in that summer,
Okay. And so
so
when did you
6 months
get
later,
so 20 after 2019, that was when you hit the writer's block.
5 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
2024, I did a ton of writing, fiction and nonfiction.
Okay.
So that's when I wrote the Solarian Deep and when I wrote Wounded Angels. I published Wounded Angels first, and recently I published the Solarian Deep. So yeah, it's yeah. So anyway, it's sort of a resurgence, and it's also sort of a deepening of my craft because I'm proud of my first four books. They're still on the shelves. I didn't pull them or anything like that, but this was obviously like early, David Deane Haskell writing, and
We all
the
have
Solarian
eras,
Deep and the
David.
yeah, right. Right, right. But the upcoming stuff and the stuff that I've published since have a lot more of me in them, and
Mhm.
my characters feel their emotions and go through trauma and have these kinds of things. So yeah, so in a way, yeah, the memoir kind of opened up the new phase of my writing.
So you wrote the memoir first as a way back into the writing.
No, it all happened at the same time. I started writing fiction
Okay.
first, just like before in 2024. I didn't want to write Wounded Angels. I was like, oh
Mm.
my God, I don't want to write nonfiction. I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to do a self-help. I don't want to tell, whatever, all this stuff. And it sort of wrote itself. It was, I don't, I hesitate to say like, inspired by whatever, some spiritual reason or whatever, but it did feel like the book had to be written. And it came out of me really fast. Like in 6 months, I wrote, no, sorry, 6 weeks over that summer. And I just wrote every morning. And I was just writing as I was doing the work. So yeah, at the same time, I was writing the sci-fi at the same time, and now that's kind of how it is too. I have a follow-up to Wounded Angels that I'm writing, and I have my best sci-fi yet in the process of writing called The Vibrance. So yeah, that's interesting going back and forth, but they're very different.
So I'm going to skip a couple questions because you brought up the sequel. So yeah, I read that you
Okay.
had a follow-up memoir coming
Yeah.
out this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm also
Yep.
a multiple memoir writer, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought, and I just moved to Costa Rica a couple months ago, and
Oh
I
wow.
thought that I would be writing more during the process of the move and getting settled in Costa Rica, because I know that's what it's going to be about, why we
Mm-hmm.
moved but I'm seeing that both of my previous memoirs had years and years of distance, like from the
Mm-hmm.
events that took place to when I wrote it, which is
Mm-hmm.
good in a way, because you have that distance and that separation of space. But
Yep.
now I'm worried, like, isn't every writer's fear like having nothing to write? I mean, you just said you had
Mm.
5 years of like, I can't write, I have
Right.
nothing to write. So while I'm waiting for this current memoir project to marinate, like I'm kind of worried about what to do in the meantime while I'm sort of waiting for this
Right.
to be ready to be written. So, what is your second memoir about? And did your
Mm-hmm.
writing process between the two memoirs change? I
Hmm.
mean, it probably not a lot, I would imagine, if it's only a couple years later, but
Not the
every
no, not
memoir
the
is
yeah.
different.
Well, I had, and I, the subtitle is A Memoir That Lights the Path to Your Own Inner Child Healing. And it
That was the first
resonates
one,
with me,
right?
the first one. And the
Okay.
thing is, I hesitate though even to call it memoir. It's hard to, because as I say, it's a real time thing, but it does involve the past. But I'm doing inner child work like in the moment where I'll be triggered by a current day situation, and then it will take me back to some event in the past, usually some sort of frozen traumatic kind of event that, and this is also psychiatric techniques too, IFS, internal family systems. They do that kind of thing where you tap into the inner child and figure out what happened then that's causing your distress now.
Hmm.
So it is a memoir, but at the same time, it's like it's an inner child work um, chronicle
Hmm.
of a very specific point in time when I was dealing with very specific, like the most traumatic memories of my childhood. So that was Wounded Angels. Then I was just kind of kept writing after Wounded Angels. Like it kept coming out, but I was like, well, I got to hit the end sometime.
Right.
And so I sort of just wrapped it up, kept writing some nonfiction, but at the same time, I would kind of waited six. I wait not kind of. I waited 6 months to publish it because it was such a vulnerable thing to publish this,
Hmm.
and I wasn't prepared to do it until I was prepared to do it. And meanwhile, I got divorced and left Japan, left the country that I'd been living in for years. So I spent all of last year and some of this year traveling. I was in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand. And so this follow up started with my divorce. And that's chapter one. This is Inner
Okay.
Child Unleashed, is the name of it. Inner Child Unleashed starts with, like, I got divorced today. This is how I
Mm.
feel. And like I start with the inner child work. And then I sort of just wrote it as I went. And I wasn't even thinking about publishing it. I was just kind of like, as it came out, I would be writing. And meanwhile, running a ton of sci-fi at the same time as I was traveling. And so I wasn't even thinking about it that much or whether I would ever publish it. I was just kind of writing it until about a month ago. And I'm back in Japan now. And that's another weird set of circumstances. I'm not traveling anymore this year. And I had an afternoon with my daughter and my ex wife. For the first time in years, we had a real healing, pleasant afternoon together.
Hmm.
And it was like this full circle thing. It was like the healing was finally able to happen after so many years of toxicity, and we were not good for each other. The divorce was postponed way too long, and this sort of thing. So literally, the book ended without my consent. It was like
Hmm.
it was always chapter one divorce, and then I was writing and writing and writing, and then like, oh, I wrote the last chapter that day, like 5 weeks ago. I was like, oh, this is, and now after all this travel, after all these experiences, after all these new triggers and new inner child experiences, because traveling will, as you know, bring up all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
right? All the stresses, all the fears, shame, angst, all that. Yeah, and then and for whatever reason, and my daughter arranged this. She's 22 years old. She's wonderful, and she wanted her parents to be kind to each other, even though we're divorced. And I want that too, and my ex wants that as well. And so there you have it. That's how that book came out. So we'll see. It's quite different, I think, than Wounded Angels, because Wounded Angels was really addressing severe trauma from my childhood. But Inner Child Unleashed is more, Unleashed is kind of my idea. Like we're just kind of going out into the world. I had this stress with immigration in Indonesia. They were really unkind to me, and I suddenly became a little kid who was in trouble with the cops. It's like,
Uh,
oh my God, what are they going to? They're going to throw me in jail. I'm going to get deported. So I did inner child work on that and wrote it.
hmm.
Um, and so,
So are
yeah,
these like
that's kind of a
personal
little.
essays of would you call the chapters kind of personal essays about a specific trigger?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't essay. Yeah, I mean, because I've published a few of the chapters on Substack as well, and it's each. Yeah, all my chapters are kind of standalone, but there's
Yeah.
these threads, right? Because
Hmm.
the inner children. I was advised long ago, don't say inner children because that people know inner child, but they don't know. But I have a ton, right? There's a 9-year-old, there's a 4-year-old, there are adults that these like parts of me,
Right.
facets of me that
You said you were
So
55, so there's got to be at
I
least
am. Yeah,
55.
exactly. Totally. Yeah, and there's one who was 50. There's a re-traumatization in Wounded Angels from
Mm-hmm.
age 9, which was the worst day of my life,
Mm-hmm.
to age 50 when there was a set of events that re-traumatized me and sort of took me back to that event 40 years ago. It was like a parallel, and I could
Mm,
finally see all of it clearly,
mm,
my role in it and the others. And so that's the beginning and end of Wounded Angels, right? It's like the 40-year, gap between trauma and resolution, which a lot of people have, not necessarily 40 years. I don't recommend 40 years. You don't have to wait that long, but people get frozen in these events of the past. And then at
yeah.
a certain point, you can sort of get it unstuck. And so, yeah, kind of essays. It's sort of like one inner child moment, but again, they come back and they come around. So like one of them I call the traveler.
Hmm.
It's he was like sitting on the living room floor with the Guide to Walt Disney World book when I was a kid, like dreaming I'll go to Disney World and then I'll be happy because Disney's a fun place and whatnot. And he is always paranoid about everything going right, making sure to plan everything out so that nothing can possibly go wrong because then dad won't get mad,
Hmm.
right? And my dad was an alcoholic, and he would get rageful and these kinds of things. And we made peace. He passed away last year. This was in during the trip, and that'll wind itself into the books as well. But yeah, I mean, this planner was like, if I just make sure everything's all planned out and we get the tickets and we get to the airport on time and this and that, then life will be okay and we won't be in danger,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I'm not in danger. I'm a traveler in his 50s, an adult with a passport and money,
Yeah.
but that's not what the inner child thinks, right?
Right, right,
So,
right.
and the planner is in both books. So yeah, there are threads that wind through it. But then there are also, some of them are quite standalone.
That's really cool. I can't
Mm.
read to read it.
Yeah.
So the traveling that you did, so you traveled for 2 years and it was the divorce
Mm.
that kicked it off and you left
Yeah.
Japan and traveled around
Yeah.
for 2 years. So,
Hmm.
so did you have any, I mean, you said the divorce made you leave Japan, but did you
Mm.
have, what was the decision to leave the country about?
Mm.
Did you do it for the writing? Did you do it just to like open your world?
Um, it's a good question, and I'm not sure if I even understood the motivations at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only so to clarify, it's about a year and a half because I was traveling through March of this year from New
Mm-hmm.
Year's, back then, 2025,
Okay.
and so I think part of me was kind of running or trying, just like I
Mm-hmm.
need to get away from this, all of this. Part of me felt I don't belong in Japan, which didn't turn out to be true. But it was sort of like, oh, enough of this oppressive society. I'm gonna go ride mopeds and play with monkeys in
And
Thailand,
Bali.
and
Yeah,
that'll be okay because that'll be
yeah.
fun. But I didn't really get the benefits of Southeast Asia so much because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so that's kind of half the fun in Southeast Asia. It's like party town, right? So I watched everybody else get high, and I had a good time, but I didn't feel I was a chaotic kind of place. So I was glad that I experienced it.
Hmm.
But yeah, a lot of it was the work, and some of it was just keeping costs down. Southeast Asia is really, really cheap.
Hmm.
And then I was going to do it all this year too. And in fact, that's a really weird, interesting story because I was supposed to be in the Philippines right now.
Okay.
In fact, I had a plane ticket a month ago today, like June 1st. I was
Okay.
supposed to depart Japan. And this is kind of inner child too, although I don't say that my inner child hit me over the head necessarily. But what happened was the day before the flight, I didn't want to leave. I was like, I'm feeling more grounded. My friends are here. I was only coming back to Japan for 90 days was the plan, and then keep going. And I was like, no, I really want to just stay. And the inner child was like, can't we just stay? I want to stay in Japan. I feel better here. I feel, we're healthier here. The, exercise goes better here. And by the way, I don't mean to sound like a kook who talks to himself all the time. It's like I do have conversations with inner child, but I said in my mind, "Oh, yeah, we can stay if you really want to. Well, that's okay." but I was lying, right?
Uh-huh.
I was like, no, no, we have a plane ticket. We're going to the Philippines. That's what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
We'll come back later. And anyway, hadn't packed. Day before the flight, stressed out. Suddenly, I felt very nauseous. Middle of the night, and I got vertigo. I hardly remember this. I got vertigo, and I fell and I hit my head on the hardwood floor, and I got a concussion.
Whoa.
Ambulance ride, hospital, all that jazz, right? And yeah, and right in that moment or in those hours, and I was like, I'm not leaving. Well, because first of all, I wasn't fit to fly the next day anyway.
Right.
And that would have put me over the limit because I was here for 90 days, like on a tourist visa. And I do have permanent residency, but as long as if you're here on day 91, you're required to reestablish residency, get back on the healthcare plan, do all that kind of stuff, which I did. And
Because
yeah,
of your
so
concussion.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the funny thing is I was able to take care of that with healthcare. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. The plans, and that might be book three, right? Because like what happens when you lie to the inner child and he hits you over the head, right? Yeah.
So was travel, you said you wrote tons while you were traveling. Like
Yeah.
that there must be a secret there because I don't know how to do that. I find travel
Well,
wonderful and
not.
exciting, but very
Mhm.
distracting. Like, what's your
Oh,
travel writing routine?
right. Yeah, no, not on the move. Because I was staying in places at least 1 month.
Okay.
And I was trying to stay longer. And like, so like I was in Da Nang, Vietnam for 2 solid months because I got a decent place and I was just like, I'm not going anywhere. And during that 2 months, I did a ton of building up my Substack and really creating the author platform that I should have created 10 years ago and really wish I had, but woulda,
We
coulda,
didn't
shoulda,
know
right?
that.
You know,
Yeah.
right. I was doing all that and writing, but it was very much every location was different. And in
Hmm.
Indonesia, crazily enough, I ended up doing a bunch of drumming. And I am a professional drummer. I played drums at Disneyland for many years back in the
Oh.
day. And but it's not something I was pursuing, but just this really synchronistic set of events got me into a national Indonesia tour. I was on stage doing coaching little marching band kids, the sweetest kids, Indonesian kids, and getting a little money for that. And they gave me a place. They took care of me, and so it was like, and I was, concerned about. I had money concerns, so like that was like, oh, what a blessing, 2 months I don't
Hmm.
need to worry about. But and I was like, great, I have a lot of time on my hands too. I'll do a lot of writing. I'll do this and that. Couldn't like those 2 months. It was like it was drumming was the focus, and I put all my energy into it. So like when I had a day off, I was like, yeah, I'll do a bunch of writing. Didn't happen. I just kind of collapsed, and that it was what it was. So every single leg of this trip had a different quality to it. There was um, quite recently, in fact, this year, in February this year, I was in the middle of nowhere in Thailand, the ancient capital. It's called Sukhothai. Nothing to do there. It was. I talked to a local when I first got there. He said, "Where are you going to stay? Like 2 days, 3 days?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to stay for a month." He's like, "What are you crazy? You're going to be so bored. You're going to hate. There's nothing to do here. You see the temples, you eat the famous food, and then you leave. You're crazy." But I got a place in the middle of nowhere. Nobody was even around. Beautiful trees and stuff around. Beautiful bird song. I had a nice little couch outside the room. It was just a room, hotel room,
Hmm.
and I just sat. I got tons of writing done because every day I had nothing to do, and I just sat and wrote. So when I say travel writing, it's not like I'm not. Occasionally, I wrote like on the bus or something, but for the most part, when I was moving or actually doing travel, I didn't get much done.
So would you say, well, you brought discipline up in your email to me. What do you want to say
Hmm.
about that?
I don't have any. I
I
don't.
was gonna say the
I wish I
same.
had some.
Like, there's a
No,
lot of times where I
and
feel like I don't have any discipline, and there's plenty of
yeah.
evidence that says otherwise, actually, but I still feel
Well,
pretty
yeah.
scattered, you know?
Yes, I mean, yes, business wise, like getting, the website squared away or taking care of something when it goes wrong, I'm pretty disciplined. But people who say they write 1,000 words a day, even if the house is on fire or whatever, that's never been me. I've always been, on and off writing in the flow. This book that I'm working on, which I really love, I'm looking forward to publishing it. The Vibrance has been ongoing for a long time, and I just wrote like, by the way, I write voice to text.
Okay.
This has been a huge game changer for me because like I pick up my phone, talk, and you know what I mean. It just that I can do a lot better than like sit down write a segment. I can
Uh-huh.
just okay. I know what's going on here. I know that he's feeling rejected and he doesn't even want to be here anymore. And I know how he's feeling and everything. And I can just pick up my phone and start writing. Tommy's so sick of this place he can't believe it, and he just wants to kill everybody he sees. And I'm writing, right? And it comes out very flowy. So I did. I wrote. I had a revelation about the book, like a certain twist that I realized that had to happen, and I wrote like half of it. And this was like last week, and then I put it in a temporary file because I'm like, well, I don't even know exactly where it goes in the manuscript, so I'll just put it in a temporary file. So it's still sitting there, and there's like the other half, which I know in my head what's supposed to happen. It's like every day I was like, yeah, do it, do it, do it, do it, and that's been for a week. So if you have any like medication I could take or whatever it is that I'm supposed to. But yeah, I'm not that writer. I guess I never will be.
That's just your
But
process then.
yeah, that's just my process. But
Yeah.
the nonfiction comes easier in a way because it's there's no plot holes because I know the plot. Like
Yeah.
I know what happened, right? And it's like it's just a matter of style or a matter of usually a process of elimination. I'll write a lot and then cut a lot of it because I'll realize that um, doesn't really need to be said, or at least not in this particular part.
So that leads me to, so when you were talking about the in real time writing of the memoirs
Yeah.
or the chronicles,
Mm-hmm.
how did you avoid that being? I mean, I got lots of journals and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff goes in the journals, but only a smidgen of it ends up in the memoirs. So,
Mm-hmm.
how did you write in real time and not have it just sound like a bunch of unprocessed processing? Or is
Right.
that what it is?
Hopefully not. But I mean, no, it's okay if it is. The funny thing is, when I said about the 5 year writer's block, I did do journaling.
Uh-huh.
And like, so when I go back and look at it, I sometimes it's useful for like getting inside my psyche at the time,
Yeah.
but it's nothing I would ever publish, I don't think. I don't think would be of value of anybody to anybody else. But I was able to do that. But that's different from the way that I wrote Wounded Angels, which I do think is meant to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an actual inner child work process,
Okay.
which has to do with and it's pretty simple actually, where when you feel triggered, and the way that I explain this, I should think of a better example, but the way that I explain it is if Johnny and Susie and Valerie go off to dinner and don't invite me, and I feel like, oh my, if I feel somewhat disappointed and irritated, that's normal, maybe. But if I feel like, oh, it's the end of the world, I can't believe they left without me. Everybody leaves without me. This sucks. Nobody ever invites me. They hate me. They don't like me. I'm gonna, real childlike reactions. And I say
Mm-hmm.
childlike. I never say childish
Mm-hmm.
anymore because I am very gentle with myself. Childlike reaction. Oh, this might go deeper than those
Mm.
people going after it. And so the technique is you say everything that's going on, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, but you put it in third person. So like he feels so rejected. His stomach hurts. He's so upset. He wants to punch them all. He's even physiological. It's giving him a headache. He can't believe how mean they are to him. And then you flip it to second person and you say, "Who are you?"
Mm.
Right? And sometimes I get some kind of sense right away, but other times it's real silence and then sometimes I'll say something like, "Are you, why are you afraid? Why are you hiding?" Because
Mm.
sometimes these buried parts of ourselves are very fearful, or just
Mm-hmm.
they don't really, they want to be heard, but then when they get noticed, it's like, oh, you know, what do I do? And then I'll start to get a vision of usually an event.
Mm-hmm.
And the one in Wounded Angels, the main one was very powerful for me because it was, um, it's a bit hardcore, but I'll talk about it. So my mom passed away when I was 4, and then I didn't know the circumstances of how she died, but they told me when I was 9. My dad told me when I was 9 because I was asking, that she had taken her own life. So this was such a shock to the system. I think I dissociated the night he told me, because they told me I didn't really say much, like I didn't seem to care, is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And but remembering it from the inside, I was just like, like suddenly like an empty shell,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the next
Frozen.
day, frozen. And then in school the next day, I had what I now know is a shame attack, which is something that a lot of people don't know about, or they might even have something like that, but they don't realize what it is. It's The way I explain it is similar to a panic attack, which people can kind of relate to more.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't have a panic attack, you know what it feels like if a tiger walked into the room, right?
Right. Yeah.
But a shame attack is just as horrible as a panic attack. It's this like unbelievable sense of like that I feel gross, I feel inhuman, I feel hate worthy, unworthy, worthless, um, just a piece of crap, and then you just want to end that feeling. Just like a panic attack, you get a panic attack, you want to run. A
Mm.
shame attack, you can't run, but you want to. You say, "What do I have to do to make this go away?" It's hard. So I had that at age 9. I didn't know what it was. I didn't, and so anyway, that was an easy inner child to access
Right.
because
Because it
that
was so
memory was so
strong. Mm-hmm.
powerfully burned into my memory, right?
Yeah.
So like when I start to feel, toxic shame or unearned shame, this isn't like because I did anything wrong. It's
Right.
more
Of
like
course
the
not.
behavior of others, people that I respect and admire, codependent relationships,
Mm-hmm.
evoke these kinds of feelings. And it takes me right back to that kid who I call him in the book, he's the shame shocked boy.
Mm.
Right. And so, yeah, that's kind of, each chapter is kind of along those lines. So there's a structure to it. So it's not really
Mm-hmm.
freestyle. And at the time, in the summer of 2024, I was still in the thick of doing this inner child work almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it every day anymore. I do it as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I was doing it almost every day. So writing the book just kind of, 27
Happened.
chapters or
Yeah.
whatever just came out. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've never done any kind of work like that. I've heard about internal family
Mm.
systems, but
Yeah.
and I've done Zoom is giving me the thumbs up.
Awesome. Is it going to
I
happen if
don't
I
know
do it? Is it going to say?
how
Yeah.
to explain that on the video.
I wondered for a second, I wondered if we were actually live. Because like I've done some podcasts that are live and I'm thinking, oh, is people watching? Somebody liked what I said. Nice.
Okay, let me get back to my questions over here. We
Hmm.
talked about the memoir. We talked about, oh, you said in a previous interview, I watched
Hmm.
that writing is the healing, and we just talked about your
Mm.
process. And I know that journaling, kept you sane through those 5 years. It kept me sane through loss and grief in my life. And my
Hmm.
goal in publishing memoir has always been like connection based.
Yeah.
Wanting to make a difference in someone's life or just that feeling of resonance when you connect with like-minded people.
Hmm.
Do you think that the what do you think is a more powerful healing tool? The actual act of, journaling and writing down, or like the letting go of your work, into the world and releasing it to whoever needs to see it.
Well, um, I think it's different for fiction. For me, the publishing is the thing, and it's like if I didn't think that I was going to be sharing it, I don't think I would ever really write it because it's a part of, I kind of look forward to hearing, what did you think of that character? What did you
Hmm.
think of that plot twist? Get the connection that way. And so for me, yeah, that is about sharing, and the nonfiction is kind of I've it's in a sense I feel like I'm doing service because the work itself it happened in seclusion or with very close trusted friends,
Hmm.
people that I was working with, and I didn't need to publish it to get better. Like in fact, it was sort of like this is what happened. Now I'm better. I'm not well. I'm better. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's a constant thing. But the publishing part, I think, is mainly to inspire others to find their own path, similar path, not to do it the way that I did it, but like to read, oh, this is a process and this has actually worked. And you can actually, hear and see the results that it actually works. Because a lot of people feel hopeless. And I did. I felt hopeless for a long, long time. So yeah, it's not. Somebody asked me if publishing that was cathartic, and I was like, no, it was as I've put it, it's a user's manual for somebody who wants to mess with me. Because it's like a vulnerability, checklist on like, in some, I'm not
Oh.
that interested in having my psyche, out in public, but it does feel that it's the right thing to publish it. And I did, to be honest, it's like one of those, it's a it's a catch 22 because I didn't want anyone to read it, but I wanted everyone to read it.
Mm.
And when I published it, I was naively kind of like thinking, oh, I'll publish it and everybody will read it. It's like, oh no, that's not how that works, right? And then I
Yeah.
felt pretty crushed. And back in March, April, May of last year, I kind of really came to a halt with the everything. So it's just like, I know this book is important. I know this book is useful and helpful. And I don't know what to do because I didn't want to do the things I guess you have to do. But going on podcasts is one thing that I realized really resonates with my integrity, and I'm really okay with it. And having conversations like this
Hmm.
and connections was the way because I couldn't. I thought about doing my own videos or whatever, and like I tried to do it. I was like walking on the beach making this bullshit video about like whatever, and I'm
That's
just like
actually
this
how I
is.
found you, though. I mean, you reached
Oh
out to
really?
me via email, and the first thing I did was go
Mhm.
to Instagram, and that was the first
The
thing I
walk and
saw.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I did put out a few of those. I did put out a few of those, but this is much better for me. This is much better. And
Hmm.
like, if you want to get to know me, then I need some questions because like
Right?
I
Totally.
don't have, I certainly don't have a schedule of like today I want to talk about shame and tomorrow I want to talk about boundaries and the next, no, none of I'd rather go to the dentist. So, mm,
Oh, so okay. There's so many things we've talked about. I feel kind of like we
mm,
pinballed all around. It's been awesome.
totally. Oh
Um,
yeah.
so let me just scan through my questions and make sure I ask. Oh, how has travel changed your writing? That's what I want to know.
Oh, well, again, the travel deepened the inner child work, and
Okay.
that was it, at a certain point. That I say inner child work, but it's healing work because it wasn't
Hmm.
only inner child, right? And trauma healing. And so, at a certain point before I left Japan, and the divorce was looming, but I had sort of come to the end of that phase of the work. Like I'd kind of dug out all the stuff that was buried
Hmm.
that I could get a hold of. And then my situation was pretty calm. Nothing much was happening. And so it took the travel to sort of like give me new triggers and new stressors. Like I said, when you're getting grilled by a couple of Indonesian immigration guys, they're not nice people. And it's like, you know what I mean? This is a hardcore country, and it can really evoke some childlike reactions. And so my credit card got defrauded along the way in Vietnam, and I was never in any trouble. I had a backup credit card. I didn't lose any money. It took a month for the credit card to come back, but I was fine. But man, that trigger, like, are in danger. You have no resources. You have no friends. You have not. You're in so much trouble. And that just, oh my God, that um, just deepened my own sense of self, my own sense of integrity, and the healing work. So consequently, my writing just includes all that stuff now, that kind of thing. And even the experiences, that kind of thing. I know what it feels like to have a credit card defrauded or have to be in a foreign country and be in trouble. And that kind of thing, definitely informs the writing, the fiction writing, right? Because they say write what you know,
Uh-huh.
and it's very true. And the characters in my books now, I see parts of me in all, and I have
Mm.
so many interesting well, interesting to me anyway, parts of me that can, could make a full character. I honestly, I still might thought about fictionalizing these like inner child world things, like some like the planner. Like he's such a interesting little character. Like if I actually wrote a book about a kid who, going through that, I wonder if that would be something that I would want to write and fictionalize it.
Uh-huh.
So, who knows? I think I toyed with the term nom fiction, nominally fictional, right? Because like I think I always feel like, am I writing fiction or nonfiction? It's my story either way. And even the memoir, like my dad read it. I had to ask him to read it because he was so deeply in it and not in the most positive ways. And it hurt him. He told me so. It hurt him to read it, but he did read it. And it's but he said I don't feel like you portrayed me in the nicest light. And that may be true, but that was my story, and that's just it. His nonfiction is different from my nonfiction. So doesn't that
Right.
make all of it fiction? You know? So I
Ooh.
don't know, you know?
I love talking about the spaces in between the truth and the fiction in all stories. I think that's so
Oh my, yeah,
interesting. So
absolutely.
this has been super interesting. We did really run the gamut on all the things. So let's end with you were a professional drummer in Disneyland? Like where does the drumming fit into all of
And with
this?
that,
And what
mm,
influence has music had on your writing?
um, yeah, the music came earlier, and I think, and I had a very similar conversation, and it's interesting to think about because I never really thought about it that much, and now I'm getting these questions, which is awesome. I think I've always wanted to be heard and understood, and I could not do that as, peer to peer, hopeless. I had very few to no friends when I was a kid. I didn't like myself. I didn't love myself. I was very broken. So I couldn't keep or maintain friendships. Um, so I couldn't tell you how I felt or what was going on or be heard or be understood. It was hopeless. Never mind write it. But I could get on stage and play drums or play piano. And then people, oh, wow, David, that was pretty cool. Or, wow, you sounded really angry when you played that. It was like, I was expressing myself that way. So it was almost kind of a primitive form in a way. It's like, okay, this is the only way you guys are going to hear me. This is the only way I'm going to be understood. And I was good at it. I became really world class and professional drummer at Disney and one of the best drumming groups in the world. I was a member of when I was 18. So, I'm very
What
proud of
band
it and
was
very good
that?
at it.
What group
It's
was
called the Blue. It's a marching group called the Blue Devils out of Concord, California.
okay?
They've won something like 20 world championships at this point.
That's cool.
Um, so yeah, check it out, the Blue Devils.
Yeah.
I was a Blue Devil. I was a Blue Devil. I was a Disney drummer. And I still, again, like last year in Indonesia was super special, like super cool. Like I was just got on stage and did my thing for a couple of months, and it's like a duck to water. I can do that. I would do it if the opportunity arises. But I realized at that time, it's like, should I double down on that? Should I, get back into drumming full time? And I realized I don't want to. I don't want to make a slog out of it. I don't want to.
Hmm.
I want to do it if it comes in a joyful way, but I don't
Mm.
want to need that. And for me, the publishing is the thing. The publishing is the bet that I'm making in the future, on the
Hmm.
future, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what I'm doing here. And so how does it connect? I'm able to be heard and understood now face to face, just like we're doing. We're
Hmm.
connecting. It's awesome. I do have some measure of charisma. I am likable. I am lovable. I know that now. Not
Uh-huh.
everybody likes me. That's okay. Not everybody loves me. That's fine too. But, I no longer fear the idea of trying to have to make a friend.
Hmm.
I know if all my friends sort of like got busy, I could go make new friends. But that was not my story for most of my life. It was like
Hmm.
something's wrong with me. Why can't I was so desperate for friends, allies, anything. And then the writing came in there too. So it's interesting too that I was at near the bottom of the end of my rope, the bottom of the bottom when I started writing professionally. And I think, and I had, the drumming had also failed. It had fallen away. The drugs and alcohol had taken away the jobs. Nobody wanted to work with me. I was a very good player, but I was difficult to work with because I was so defiant and just unwell, and had given up hope. I was 100 pounds heavier. I just, in the last 11 years of my addictive life, I became a hermit. I was just living in a room, shades closed, didn't go outside, trying to figure out how to survive. I
Hmm.
wasn't making money with drumming anymore. I wasn't making money. Was barely teaching English, just to get a few dollars. And that's when the writing came. And at the time, I thought, again, oh, this might be a way for me to make money. But now that I think back at it and the timeline of it all and the way the writer's block fit in, it was more to the point a last desperate effort to be heard and understood.
Mm.
And so, and I'm going to do it through fiction because if I tell you anything about me, you're going to hate me. So I'm going to write sci-fi and I'm going to write these characters, right? Man. And so that, one thing led to another. It's kind of giving me chills to think about it because I never have
Yeah.
thought it through, but it's very true. And at this point, I am able to be heard. I am able to be understood. And now I can relax into it and hear what you have to say, understand what you think of what I said, what your experience is with this inner child stuff, and what your hopes for the future are. What do you think about my scene, 50 years in the future? Do you think we can be hopeful? Do we dare be hopeful? Because, I want to sort of resonate in all those directions. So,
Yeah. Oh, what a wonderful connection. I'm so glad that we did this, David. I feel really good
me
about
too.
this
Me
episode.
too.
I can't wait to
Me
publish
too.
it, put it out in the
I
world to
can't wait.
everyone
I can't wait to
else.
check it out. And I hope we can do it again. I've got two books coming out soon.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to be coming around and I hope to keep on connecting with the people that I've already connected with in podcasts. And it's really
Yeah.
amazing to be
Reach out.
talking to someone in Costa Rica. I think that's the first
Yeah.
time I've talked to them. That's really cool. I want to go there too.
Nice. It's hot here, just like was it Indonesia where you were hot in the rainy
All of it.
season?
Yes.
All of it?
Oh my God. Southeast Asia. Thailand was the real
Thailand.
heat wave, but yeah, hot.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. And we'll see you when
Thanks,
the next
Valerie. It
book
was
comes
amazing.
out.
Awesome. Thank you.